Do you want to help the people of Ukraine but don't know where to donate? Look no further than Leleka. For over 10 years, the Leleka Foundation has provided Ukrainian frontline medics with the critical medical supplies they need. It's only from the support of people just like you that has made this possible. Your help is needed now more than ever. To give your support to the Leleka Foundation, visit leleka.care. That's LELEKA.CARE.
Compelling stories are not hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Join your host, Dr. Eric Shaw, prosecutor Ryan Frank, writer Adrian Bonenberger, and comedian Ryan Connor as they interview ordinary people about their extraordinary experiences. This is Baggage.
Welcome, everybody, to Baggage. And on this episode, it's going to be myself, Ryan Connor, and Eric Shaw. And on this episode, we have a special guest, Lonnie Beacham. And he is the owner of Restore It Restoration in Jefferson City, Missouri. Lonnie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Been looking forward to this.
As are we. As always, Ryan and Eric know very little about what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
I know a little bit. So tell us, in general, what is your company? What do you do?
Well, I'm in the disaster restoration business, so we are considered not first responders, but second responders. So when the house goes up in flames, we're the second guys that show up. Paramedics, fire department, police, all that, they're first responders. Then guys like me show up and board up the house, make it secure for the occupants and or protect the scene if it needs to be investigated by cause and origin specialists. That's the fire restoration side. Then in the water damage business, I do mostly mold remediation is what I really do day to day. And along with that comes lead abatement, non-friable asbestos abatement, water damage, mold remediation. Then we also, believe it or not, pull a lot of dead animals out of living room walls and ceilings and crawl spaces. And I don't do the biohazard anymore. We used to, but I stepped away from it because it's too much. And that's kind of what we're starting to talk about. But my day-to-day, the phone calls start out with, I don't know if you know how to do this, but I bet you know somebody that does. And then it's always some off-the-wall crazy story. Can't even make up half of it. And I just scratch my head and wonder why people think that was a good idea whenever they're having water issues and they're trying to be their own plumber, or they're trying to do their own wiring and they burn their house down, and then they wonder why that didn't work.
I have a kind of a non sequitur first question for you. And I know we're going to get into some more heavy stuff here, but in that line of work between like dead animals and burnt down houses and all that sort of stuff, what is the worst thing you've ever smelled?
Well, I'll tell you about later if you want to hear about it. I guess y'all know what dark humor is, right?
That's the premise.
And Eric, you being a doctor, you kind of know about sliders. But sliders on a waterbed in July, that's one of the worst smells. Actually, the worst smell I've ever had was I got called in to look at is a sad situation. Mentally ill guy kind of got swindled by a con artist. The con artist took all the valuables out of the house, but the guy had been squandering, just living in squalor, and he didn't have running water forever. So the bathtub was overflowing with fecal matter. The toilet, he had piles of cat feces in his living room that was about waist tall. There was roach feces everywhere in this house, and the lady hired me to go in and give an evaluation, and long story short, we get called into court. But the lady says, so how bad is it? And I said, well, honestly, my guys would quit. We're not even interested in this house. It was in a remote area, about 45 minutes from nowhere. And I said, your best bet is just let the local volunteer fire department burn the house, let them get some training out of it. And she says, that's pretty bad when a restoration guy says it's gross. And I'm like, it is gross. My guys would walk 45 minutes or 45 miles back to the shop. They wouldn't even do it. It was that gross.
So is Slider just like a hoarder like that or something?
No,
Is that what that
Slider
means?
is when the skin sloughs off and
Oh
when the
God.
corners come in to pick them up, their skin, they deglove. Yeah, everything that was inside their body is now out, basically.
Good God.
On this show, we have a kind of rule of like, don't ever ask our guests, like, what's the worst thing you've ever seen?
Yeah, that was your question. We're 5 minutes
You thought
in.
smell would be fine?
I thought that smell would be a softer way to kind of like, go into this, and I was wrong.
The worst smell I've ever smelled, I thought could not be topped. And it's going to sound shocking that it was this, but our mutual friend Quincy and I, we lived in Jersey City, and this comic came to stay at our place for about 3 days. The plan was 3 days. Day one, he's there for about 20 minutes. I'm in my bedroom. Quincy's in his bedroom, probably about 50 feet apart. There's a bathroom halfway down the hallway. Anyway, Quincy and I both run out of our rooms thinking there is a natural disaster taking place. Basically, this guy took a shit that smelled like 50 people died a month ago. It stayed in our apartment for about 24 hours. We had to get this guy to leave. It was like, we can't risk this happening again.
How did you know this guy?
It was a comic. I knew. I don't want to give any more information just in case anyone pieces it together. But
Is he still working comic?
Fucking God. Yes.
Okay.
It smelled like he eats sliders for dinner every night.
Yeah.
Like the kind of sliders you're talking about, Lonnie.
No, thank you.
Oh my God. Let's right the ship here. So how long have you been in the restoration business?
23 years, 22 years, something like that. Long enough to know better.
You said you got out of the biologicals. So is it now just flood fire mostly kind of stuff? Like with dead animals still? You don't do that even now?
No, I do the dead animals. About the only guy in Jeff City or in the mid-Missouri area that does it. So I was with an independent restoration company. In my world, we have independents and franchises, okay? So I was with an independent firm. They didn't do bio cleanup. I went to Service Master, the big yellow franchise out there, and, well, we did biohazard. It's just a whole nother animal. I did it. When we go in, we're so suited up and covered in PPE and rubber and plastic and gloves and masks. And, so I pick up a spleen and throw it in a red bag. Big deal. It's nothing, it's just another gooey, wet, slimy item going into a bag. But we had to get hepatitis vaccines, and that's a 2 or 3 month process. You go in today, you get a shot, and you go back 2 months later, 2 or 3 months, I don't remember, and you get another round of shots to complete the series. And so I went to bloodborne pathogen school and get certified, and I was actually the manager down there at that location of Service Master, and so I'm like newly minted, newly certified. I know what I'm doing. And then I go in, and my very first claim that I ever had to deal with, the gentleman, I learned little bits and pieces during the process. He was 82 years old. He was terminal cancer. I don't know exactly what happened, but I guess he was done. And he swallowed a 12 gauge shotgun. The wife, they had very old fashioned names, and I don't remember, but it was something like Earl and Ethel. I mean, it was something that old. But so the mom, the wife, she had dementia of some sort. She was on that train at least, right? And she kept saying, well, this looks important. Earl should be here. And I don't know what to tell her. And then I'm brokenhearted. I'm about to cry because I'm watching a 75-year-old brother bawling like a baby. And I had 6 guys sitting outside, and I just said, well, you guys sit out here until you hear from me. And, when you see me come out, and I'll give you the game plan and tell you what we're doing. Yeah. And the whole time, the wife was so confused. She had no idea why I was there. Brother, like I said, 75-ish. I don't know this family. He's crying like a baby, naturally. His brother just committed suicide. Of course, it was in the tool room. And apparently some 90-year-old neighbor lady is the one that found him, because he went missing for like a half a day or something, and couldn't find him. And, well, neighbor lady, she was crippled herself. She goes in and finds him on the floor. I can only imagine how traumatizing that is. So that was my very first foray into biohazard cleanup, and it never left me. So whenever I worked for the company, We didn't make everybody do it. There was sometimes, if everybody was just too squeamish, or if you just straight up said, I don't have the stomach, we weren't going to force you to go in there and do trauma cleanup. But usually everybody's like, yeah, I'll do it. And we go in there and yeah, we've done so many that if you say anything millimeter, like, that won't be that bad. Anything gauge, oh, you're going to see, like this very first one. I don't know how it happened. Front teeth, like 2 or 3 of them, jawbone and all, flew into a box of some sort he had a box, a little small cardboard box, like 2-inch by 2-inch. Somehow it flew into that box, but it didn't leave any trace of blood or evidence of it flying through there. We just happened to pick it up and look inside, and sure enough, there's his front jaw right there in this box. And so, yeah.
Hey, Lonnie, let me translate real quick. You said millimeter versus gauge. You're talking if it's suicide by like a 9 millimeter, that's less, how do I say?
Flattery.
Yeah, than it's like a 12 gauge shotgun.
Yes, a 12, 20 gauge shotguns. They're going to blow everything apart. That's our job, is go in and make the house sanitary. To do that, we have to have a lot of biohazard bags. You don't just take a blood-soaked mattress out and go throw it in your dumpster, because believe it or not, I found this out when my boss threw a fit. We had a guy die on a couch with cirrhosis of the liver. Oh, that's a pretty nasty smell, Eric. That was pretty nasty. So we threw this couch away, and right on top of our dumpster. And I call, this is like 8:00 at night. And the next morning at 7:00 in the morning, I get to the office and like, there's no blood-soaked couch sitting on top of the dumpster. And I call my boss laughing. She goes, don't you ever do that again, because we are liable. If you go digging in my dumpster and you catch a communicable disease of some sort,
oh wow,
I can be sued, even though you're dumpster diving. Yeah. So yeah, when we go in and clean up after suicides and unattended deaths, we have to wear full PPE. So that's the space suit, or whatever you want to call it. Tyvek suits, respirators. If it's really bad, we'll use PAPRs. That's powered air respiratory. I forgot what. Anyway, it's a air filtration oxygen device. And we go in wearing suits, wearing those hazmat masks and stuff. And we're trying to we tear apart your sheetrock and dispose of the wood floor and the carpet and padding, and gut the house basically in a moment's notice with anything biologic on it. It's kind of I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's kind of unsightly. It's kind of like mind-boggling to do that. We get kind of real desensitized in this line of work, whatever it is. Just so you know, don't ever off yourself in your home. Don't ever do it anyway. But the reason why I say that is so you call, you have a suicide in your home. Well, the insurance companies they don't pay for your contents to be clean. So contents are anything that's nailed to your walls, your couch, flooring, dining room table, tools, you name it. If it's self-inflicted, they do not pay us to clean or move it or touch it. But then we're always like, well, I got to move the mattress out of the way. I got to get it outside. And but they won't pay us to do that. So a lot of families are left, puts us in a position where we got to bill for our time. You don't know the in and outs of it. You think you're calling a service to come in and take care of this for you. And then, so we got basically 2 billing pile of money that we're going to bill the insurance company for gutting the sheetrock. And then we got a pile of money to bill the homeowner, the loved ones that are left behind, because we had to take your mattress outside and we had to put it in the red bag and do the biohazard burn off and stuff like that. And so you can get hit with not only your deductible bill, but then guys like us, we're hazard pay. It's always after hours. It's never scheduled Monday through Friday. It's always 2 a.m., 2:00 Saturday afternoon, doesn't matter, Easter Sunday, whatever. And we're out there on hazard pay after hours, and we have to bill the insurance company for the structure and then bill the homeowners for the cleaning and processing and or disposal of the contents. And so it leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. Believe it or not, there's a franchise in my world that this is all they do is it's called Aftermath. That's what they do is go in and clean up suicides and trauma cleanups.
How does that happen? Let's go back to the first one you were on with the elderly gentleman. How does that happen? Are the cops there? Who calls you?
It's well, if you really want to market this and get into the line of work, you can start marketing with law enforcement, coroners, funeral homes. You can market to people like that, but usually we don't do. Back then, we didn't even do. It wasn't like we did one or two a day or a week. It was like one a month or so. But we usually just got the homeowners that would call us up and tell us we had a suicide.
I would think that usually the police, like my experience from being a paramedic, like we would declare the patient dead. The police would come in and clear the scene to make sure that they didn't have any concerns. But after that, I'm assuming that's where you step in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And now, don't get me wrong. I've seen scalps stuck to vanity sinks. I know what a spleen looks like laying on your concrete garage floor. Bone fragment, chunks of brain, blood. And Eric, you probably know this. Whatever you're holding inside. So if you feel like you need to go to the bathroom, the moment you die, that all comes out.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at.
This is more of a practical question. You're at work, you're doing one of these scenes. Do you guys ever take a lunch break, or do you just wait to eat after? Because I can't.
That's a great question.
How do you put a spleen into a bag and then go, all right, I'm going to have a sandwich real quick?
Usually we just stay with it until, we either do, if it's really late, we'll get it to a stabilization point and then reconvene tomorrow morning. We're not going to start breaking out circular saws and stuff like that in your neighborhood 2 a.m. if we don't have to. So it really depends. But yeah, when we're going, we don't typically stop for lunch. We just keep going because we keep thinking, well, 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes. Next thing you know, it's 3 hours later and you're like, well, I'm hungry. And then at this point, we're like, well, it's almost quitting time. We'll just wait.
Right.
To answer the real question behind the question, it wouldn't bother me a bit to sit there and eat a sandwich and we'll just go outside and take off our suits. And we're wearing so much garb, plastic and rubber. And, it's not like I'm barehanding your spleen into a bag.
This question about the eating lunch just reminds me of just like my experiences there, where at some point you get so desensitized to it.
Sure.
It's just another day at the office. And you start realizing like you've seen something horrific and you're just going to go outside and eat your lunch and you're going to talk with your crew. And it's just one more thing. And it just doesn't, not say it doesn't bother you, but it just doesn't land like it should. Right.
Not after you've done it a time or two.
Yeah.
And in fact, I got a sewer drain cleanup guy here in Jeff City. He does a phenomenal business when your toilets are, pipes are all clogged up. He's the man, and he has no problems eating a sandwich with his left hand and raw dogging his right hand into the sewer pipe. And I'm just like, you're nasty. That's gross. Like, go outside.
Dr. Shaw, do you have any comments on that?
I don't need to comment on that. That's just self-explanatory. That's so gross.
No, it's gross. It's gross.
You talk about needing your hepatitis shot. Jesus.
That man has an immune system like none other.
Okay, I have so many questions. Like your stories there have just like brought so much stuff up. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but like with this almost desensitization aspect, and now that you said that you've backed off of doing the biohazard stuff, was there a point you realized like it was just not good for you anymore, or that you just couldn't do this, or not? I should say couldn't, but just didn't want to do this anymore?
So I was with Service Master for 12 years. Actually, I guess my math, you're asking when I started doing this. I was with them for 12 years and I've been on my own for 13. So I guess I've been doing this longer than I realized, longer than I thought. So if I would have stayed with Service Master, I'd still be doing it. I mean, do I want to do it? No. Did I go and actively advertise and seek it out and go knock on funeral directors' doors and beg for their work? Absolutely not. But it was nice cash flow, and I say nice cash flow, but It's challenging. I never liked doing it. I just did it. It was just like another day at the office. Now, since I've started my own restoration company, day one, I said, I'm not dealing with that. I don't have a problem whatsoever if you had a fire and I could walk in and I can guesstimate pretty darn close at what it would cost to get you back up and running. I have no problems telling you $250,000 and we'll have your house deodorized and rebuilt for you and have you back in the house in 6 months. But to go in, tell a family, oh, I need you to sign my little work authorization form for the insurance company. And sorry, but I need to ask you for your deductible money. And by the way, if it's self-inflicted, they don't pay for contents. If it's a natural death, unattended death, then the insurance company will pay me to burn your couch and tear everything apart and clean all your contents. And, they'll pay me to clean the metal tools in your shop and everything else. But if it's self-inflicted, they don't. So I just chose, I just feel like a heel. I feel like an ambulance chaser. I don't know. I just don't like asking you for money because somebody in your household decided to off themselves. So I just don't do it. That's the baggage that I'll never forget. This just popped in my head. So one day I was working on an estimate or an invoice for a suicide. I learned that day to never, ever let people see my computer, see my photos that I'm uploading. Because I had a plumber friend come in and I said, hey, sit down, come on in, sit down. And he goes, what you working on? And he looks over and I watched this grown plumber friend of mine that I'd known for 12 years. He just all of a sudden started bawling. And I said, what's wrong? That kind of hit me. And he looked at he was looking at my screen on my computer and he says, is that what I think it is? And I was like, well, it's a suicide. I don't know what you think it is, but it's a suicide. And then that man broke down and cried. He'd told me about how, when he was about 15 years old, he found his dad after a suicide. So that day taught me to never let anybody see my work product, what I have on my screen as I'm doing my uploads and, my computer work.
This is fascinating, the fact that two things. When you told that first story, you told it in such detail, and it's something that I've experienced when there's things that are just kind of seared into your brain and you just can't remove them. And when you think about them, you just think about them almost in real time. And it's amazing that doesn't seem to bother you. What seems to bother you is these kind of social nuances and interactions afterwards with dealing with the families. And I just find that really interesting that's what seems to catch with you. I can empathize with not the same thing, but when I had emergency patients like at the ambulance and I have to ask for insurance and their kid is had their arm broken on the ground there and they get really mad. This is that times 1,000. And I always found that to be unpleasant to talk money when there was an emergency. And I just find that very interesting that is the thing that really bothered you the most, was that dealing with the money in a moment of trauma for a family.
It doesn't sit well with me. Like I keep saying, we're so garbed up in PPE that we're not raw dogging the spleen. We got gloves on.
I need to find a way to use that in just casual conversation.
That's an amazing phrase. Raw dog in the spleen.
We don't have merch yet anyway, but if we ever do, that's going to be our first t-shirt.
Raw dog the spleen.
Yeah.
But yeah, who likes asking for money in a situation? I couldn't be a funeral director. The body, the bodily fluids and stuff, now it doesn't bother me. Another bad smell, Eric, is that a refrigerator in July, and when the house has had a fire and it's been a week without power, and every rookie makes that first mistake. They always go and open up the fridge, and we're like, no, don't do it. I'm like, well, why? And we're like, no. And then somebody does, and then we have to smell that on top of the burnt, charred out building. So no, it's not the blood. Just like you, Eric, you're a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is there aspects of your job you don't like? I'm sure, but it does become a day at the office. But then, like you said, when that child has a broken arm and you're asking for insurance money, I don't like that part. Not in a trauma situation.
No, it just feels
icky.
Wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the course of your career, about how many of those type of jobs has there been that you've had to go through that?
In 12 years I was with Service Master, we probably did 40 or 50
Oh, wow.
in 10 years.
Wow.
So 4 or 5 a year. Always seems to go in clusters. Get a whole bunch, back to back, one a week for 3 or 4 weeks, and then we won't do nothing for 9 months.
Busier on the holidays?
Well, I mean, my workflow, I wouldn't say necessarily do we see it. We always hear about it, suicides going up around Christmas and stuff. I don't remember. It's been so long since I've worked for Service Master. I don't remember.
Hey everybody, Ryan here. I'm with Susan Wendishin, Senior Director of Operations for the Dear Jack Foundation, which is a charity that helps young adults between the ages of 18 and 39 deal with a cancer diagnosis and navigate that difficult process. And the Dear Jack Foundation has an interesting origin story. So Susan, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd love to. So we were founded by a musician. His name is Andrew McMahon. I always say musician and all-around great human. He'd probably be very embarrassed knowing I say that. But Andrew, he was the front man for the bands Jack's Mannequin, Something Corporate, and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. But Andrew had cancer in his early 20s, right as he was about to embark on a nationwide tour with one of his biggest albums called Everything in Transit. He got a stem cell transplant from his sister. He came through and is doing great. This is for him 20 years post-cancer this year. But he really realized in an era where cancer is a huge call to action health item, there's nothing out there for the young adult age range. So he started Dear Jack to bridge that gap and really support these young people in the unique way that they need help and psychosocial support.
An incredible story and a great charity. So if anyone's interested in supporting that cause, please visit the show notes or visit dearjackfoundation.org and donate now. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
I want to throw back a story to my first episodes and then just kind of throw a question to you in regards to this. We had a patient once that was dead and we weren't working him. We were just declaring him. But as we kind of looked around his apartment, this was early 2000s.
Your EMT days.
Yeah. This man had the most massive pornography collection I've ever seen in my life.
I got a story for that
just
too.
Hundreds, if not thousands, of videos and DVDs in bookshelves, like just across the room, just all these videos. And it took us a while to figure out that that's what it was. And we were like, oh my God, just looking at it all. And we were like, this is what, and the modern equivalent is like, you need to have a friend that's going to go like delete your hard drive or delete your browser history. And this guy didn't have a friend to do that at the end. I mean, unless someone burned the house down. Did you ever have any kind of quirky moments like that or something goofy where you're like found a little bit of humor in your work there?
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget one of the very first fires I ever went into. Fire marshal declared that only insurance company and, restoration guys could go in. So we're in there. And I walk into definitely a bachelor's pad. He had like a Bowflex type thing in his living room, little love seat. And he had just porn for days, right? This is like early days. Oh, he still had some VHS. So this would have been early 2000s. And so he had some VHS, some labeled, some not. And we did not even want to go see what the not labeled ones were. But I'm looking at his porn collection, and it's 86 and still banging. Granny Takes It in the Ass.
Oh,
all this old lady porn. A week or so later, I meet the guy and I'm looking at him. The dude's 25 years old and he's into old lady granny porn. It's like, dude, that's gross. And then
this guy was still alive. You were
just a fire, a fourplex, and fire department put everything out, and we're just kind of rummaging through this guy's stuff first to see what all we're cleaning. And he was into old lady porn, but I tell you what, I see adult toys almost on the daily in my job. And it always amazes me, and it does definitely give me a chuckle. I go home and tell my wife, like, you'll never guess what I saw today. So a typical scenario is
you can't put that in the suitcase like when you got to go to the hotel.
And I open their drawer. I mean, just out of work needs. Right. But people have toys everywhere. I've even seen eye hooks at the foot of the bed.
I don't know what that is. I'm not even hip enough to know what that is.
Well, it's just a hook that you screw into a joist in the ceiling, and it's a round hook.
It's for
So
BDSM
it's just
stuff.
hardware,
That was some kind of
it's
special,
substantial,
special
right?
toy I didn't know about or something.
Well,
Do you think it was like something to hook your eye to fuck the eye socket? Right?
I don't know.
Jesus.
when I saw this eye hook in the ceiling at the foot of the bed, wasn't 10 minutes later, and I found a leopard printed sex swing that they hung from that.
Strong. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Here's the question. This dude with this giant collection, he had to have considered just letting it all burn before he called 911, right? Before, so that everyone doesn't
this
see
poor guy,
this.
he was at work and he couldn't even go into his apartment.
Oh,
The fire department had it all blocked off, and you know, they don't let anybody in.
You didn't have to go back to clean up a suicide scene after he got home?
No. But no, I do. I see toys almost every day, because a typical scenario I get a phone call for is, you know, hey, you know, my kids flooded the toilet, you know, their bathtub or the toilet, it overflowed or something. Well, I don't know how people think water just stays in that room. Okay, it goes places, and it goes under walls. And so my meter, my infrared camera, I mean, I'll walk in with $6,000 worth of inspection tools between my infrared camera, my moisture meters, hygrometers, borescopes, everything else. So as I'm going through and investigating where this water went, it always goes outside you probably, all three of you probably have this exact same scenario. There's a hall bathroom between two bedrooms. Mom and dad's bedroom's on the back side, and the water goes out, and there's always a linen closet right there. And I just follow the water, and I've learned to ask. I always ask, may I open your bedroom door? And they're like, oh, sure. Yeah. So I always open up the bedroom door, and right there on the nightstand, you see the toys, everything that buzzes and vibrates and shakes, and little machines that look like reciprocating salt. I mean, I don't know. I've seen it all. And then go in their closet, and then there's a lot more of it. And there's all the lubes and the lotions and the gels and the potions. And oh yeah, you get to see it all. When you go in people's homes, you see everything.
Ryan Frank, hide your Sibian.
I've seen one of those. I've only seen one. We see it all when you go in people's homes, and especially when they're not expecting you to show up. We really get a peek into what you're into.
I'm just imagining that guy with the granny porn collection. Like, if he had been there,
you're still on the granny porn.
Yeah, no. It's just if that guy had been there when the fire department showed up, he'd just been like, no, just let it burn. Just let it go.
Yeah.
No, he'd have been like, I don't know who lives there. So I don't.
It's not my stuff on the shelves.
It was strange. He was way too young to be into that demographic of porn. That is bizarre.
There's some kind of wild background that guy's got for sure.
He has grandma issues for sure.
Next question, guys.
I want to hear where you're going with this. See if you have
go for it, Ryan. You're
follow up on the eye hook.
So you were talking about you don't do the bio anymore. Was there a particular biohazard case that you were like, I don't want to do that? Was it finding employees that would do it? What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
All that. Mostly asking for the money. One of the nastier ones I kind of alluded to before was that this is probably one of the last ones I did was that unattended death on a waterbed in July. And the guy had been there for, I forgot how many weeks.
Oh, my weeks? Oh, my gosh.
On a waterbed. And it was probably the last waterbed I ever saw. I mean, there for a while when I first got in this line of work, we would have to drain a waterbed about 4 or 5 times a year. And this was probably one of the last ones, so we had to drain it. Now, granted, we're in the water restoration business, so we just put our hose on it. And we sucked that waterbed dry in about an hour. It still takes an hour. It still takes a while, but it ain't like we're siphoning the hose and shoving it out the window like they did in 1983, and come back a day later. So, yeah, so we had an unattended death. It looked just like what you could imagine, blood and ooze and pus and everything on. I mean, we just took the sheets and just put them in a red bag. We just put the bladder or whatever you call the waterbed part. We just put that straight in a biohazard bag, and dismantled took apart that waterbed piece by piece, bolt by bolt. That little rubber it always seemed like the brown liner inside. Just threw all that straight in the bag, and then I don't remember if we cleaned the wood framing or not. if it's porous, we can't clean it. So your drywall, carpet pad, there's no salvage. That if it's sewer or blood or anything, we have to rip it out. If it's hard surface like wood that's polyurethane and processed, we can clean it. I don't know what we did with this one, but that one was a pretty gross. That was one of the last ones that I did working for a service master, and that was kind of like I was done. That one stunk through our mask. We smelled that forever. That one was pretty gross. Unattended death. I felt sorry. I mean, don't even know this man, but we could smell it outside before we even got into the house. We could smell the decomp, and that's pretty bad.
Because some scenarios you have like a coroner show up and the coroner's taking care of the body, but in that one it sounds like no one's taking anything. You're dealing with the whole thing.
We never saw bodies. We just saw chunks of bodies.
Oh,
so
it's almost worse.
Probably.
I have so many more questions about the last one you talked about. Then, like what was there?
It just fell apart.
Yeah. What was there was his inner guts. Most of it was dry and kind of leathery. Like the lung. I don't know what all parts were there. I mean, I've never cut on a cadaver before, so I don't know all the parts, but a lot of it by the time we got there, what was on top of the waterbed was dried out and leathery. What was staying nice and warm in that warm soup of goo underneath the waterbed, that was the nasty part. That was just all the bodily fluid. So that guy, I mean, I would say at least 80% of them got put in a bag, I guess. I don't know I've never seen them take them out. I see it on TV, but I've never seen it in real life. What body is going out, how they do that with sliders.
That is just brutal.
Or degloved people or whatever you call them.
Yeah. Now that you've moved on to other work, it sounds like, again, this goes back to some of the same stuff. Like you can clearly visualize these things in your head. How have you moved on from this? Does this stuff follow you? Does this stuff bother you? Or are you just totally good to go with, the next part of your career?
Well, I don't dwell on it. I don't really have a lot of time to dwell on it. When you're 50 years old and you got a family and you got bills to pay, you got to keep going. Mm-hmm. But I do whenever, something hits the news or, somebody dies or unfortunately I didn't want to see it, but I saw the Charlie Kirk thing on Twitter or whatever. Yeah, those are the times that it comes back and like, I know what that kind of looks like. Or when somebody famous or whatever, like Rob Reiner. I mean, I've had to clean up after stabbings and stuff like that. That's the only time I kind of think about the trauma cleanup days. I don't dwell on it. I see so much nasty stuff in my career on a day-to-day basis. At some point it becomes old hat. It's just a day at the office. But I do think about it, and I say I'm glad I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I still fall back on it's just so interesting that we have so many guests that have, traumatic experiences, and it's these violent things that they've seen or been a part of, and yours again was this aspect of dealing with these people that are in trauma and having to ask to do like a business transaction that hits so hard.
Right.
And I just find that very moving and touching that, like, you were empathetic in that moment, just trying to do your job, but
I still have a job to do and still got to make my corporate people happy and that sort of thing.
I can just see that being so rough.
Actually, one of the saddest things that I deal with, fires, when people lose photos of their babies. We've all, I don't know if you all have kids or not, but if you have kids, we've all taken a photo when we're giving them a bath in the kitchen sink. We all have that photo somewhere. And whenever those kind of photos get lost in a fire, that's way more touching to me than losing grandma's furniture or, the house being, demolished from a tornado or a tree falling on it or something like that. It's the touching moments, the stuff you can't replace, the little kindergartner scribbles that they bring home to you that you throw in that memory box and stuff. When that stuff gets water damaged or burned up, that to me is far more traumatizing, I guess is the word. I don't know. I have much more empathy with that, but I also I have daughters and they're getting married now and moving out. But I still treasure those photos when they're first grade and they don't have their front teeth and, all those memories that we all have if we have kids. And you can't replace that. I can replace your bedroom set. I can replace your paint and drywall and flooring, and I can throw you a deck on too, but I can't replace your photos that are irreplaceable.
Did you ever, so I live in LA, and I was like right by the fires last year, where like I had to evacuate for a month and everything. I was spared. The fires probably stopped about a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles from my house, but it was like right in the path of the ash. It was terrifying.
Sure.
I know several people who lost their houses though. And they talk about just, as soon as it's cleared, going back and going through the rubble to see if there's anything that survived that they recognize.
And there was nothing, was there?
A weird one. My girlfriend's friend, they went back and their baby's crib was the only thing that was just sitting on a concrete slab. Everything else disintegrated, but this crib, I don't understand that.
Something like that, I would clean for free for the family. Most families would still want that crib, even if it was charred. They'd still want it, and I would clean that for them for free. Actually, I got a friend that was in the Altadena fire, and her and her neighbor, it's like the only two for miles that survived, and she still can't even get back into her house, even though it's been remediated. They've gone in and done all the deodorization and pulled all the stucco and pulled it apart and put it back together, and all the permits out there in California are crazy.
Oh, the permitting's crazy. I know people who've lost their homes or have been trying to rebuild, and they can only get 2 people who just got permits to basically explore the idea of rebuilding a house. We're talking 15 months later. But yeah, the Altadena area is there's if you go east to west, you go about 5 miles where there's either no houses or there's one house on the block, 2 houses on the block, some just random chimneys. And they're trying to clean, I can't remember how many inches of topsoil that they're trying to remove. But anyway, you see some of these houses, and when we moved in the fall, we actually looked at a couple sort of on the outskirts of it, but it's so fucking freaky to see that. Like, you can't even be near it. Honestly, it's just like devastating to see this, and people just driving up to look at their old vacant lot. You see people like stop outside.
Here in Colorado, we had that big fire, I think 3-4 years ago, where it burned down, a bunch of suburbs to the north of us. And we were in the pre-evacuation zone. My mom got evacuated. She came and stayed with us there. And, luckily her home was safe, but they did everything here to clear all those regulations and stuff just to get people back in their homes ASAP.
Well, our state government did, and then our city ignored it. Yep.
Well, did you have a question about wildfires or?
Yeah, well, no, I was going to ask, like, when you do, if you all had cleanups where it's an entire house burned down, do you ever find anything that like survived that, you're able to bring back to the family? Like, does that, because you were talking about how it feels like, when you're there, when people have lost these like mementos, do you ever find anything that survived?
Yes. And it's always random. Like you said, your friend with the crib in the middle of a concrete slab. It's always random stuff. And like some of it's like, how did this survive? I did a fire years ago it was arson. Everybody knew it. Same house with the eye hook.
This is some shady, weird people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got stories for days on just that one. But this particular house, the guy, he was a builder, decided to take all the wood framing off his deck, bring it inside in July to restain it. He happened to, I just store my lawnmower, my gasoline, and my weed eater fuel in my $1 million home with marble, everything, fancy, ornate basement. And I just turned to him like, no, you don't, dude. Nobody puts their lawnmower in their basement, especially in this caliber of a house. And he goes, no, I do all the time. So that's one where that fire, somehow the gasoline didn't explode. Riddle me that one. I have no idea. But a 5-gallon jug, red jug of gasoline, full, right? He was hoping his whole place would just blow up and he'd get his insurance money. But no, that house just smoked up and burned out a lot of marble and granite and, everything like that. So it's weird stuff like that. Like, how did the lawnmower and the gasoline not just ignite and just go majorly kaboom? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or we'll see like little pacifiers, like in a hot fire, a pacifier will survive. Or, just random. It's just weird stuff. You would think something as flimsy and cheap as a pacifier would just burn up with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Just random, weird, unexplainable stuff will survive. Then we look at a big black pile of melted plastic, and then they want us to like clean it. I'm like, well, why? I don't even know what it was. I can't even read Panasonic on it anymore, or Sony or whatever. It's like that's trash.
Mm-hmm.
What's the lamest call you ever had? Like, really? You're really calling us out for this? You can't do this yourself?
Oh man. Well, strange. So we advertise 24-hour emergency services. I've gotten calls at 2:00 in the morning because somebody spilt their red spaghetti sauce on their white carpet and they wanted me to come out and clean it right now. Like, we don't come out for that, especially for a couple $100. I mean, you wake me up and get me out, the price starts at $1,000. So, like, if you really want to, pay me $1,000, I'll come clean your red carpet or red sauce off your white carpet. But that one was actually irritating. I tell you what, I got crazy people that call me all the time. Like every industry, we all know each other, right? So I know my ServPro competitors. I know my Service Master competitors. I know all my independents. We all know each other, and we're friends. Most of us are friends, right? Mm-hmm. So for about 3 years now, we all have a crazy guy that keeps calling us at midnight, 9 a.m., 10 o'clock at night. And it's the same conversation 3 times a week. And I've been blunt. I've been rude. I've been hateful. I've even told him, I was like, dude, we are all talking about you. He has called in animal control people. He's called in HVAC people, plumbing people, because he has an odor in his house that is making him so sick, but nobody else can smell it. And I'm like, where do you want me to start? And, I give him every day, his wife, Shirley, sitting at the dining room table. Shirley, write this down. Because I always give him a couple people's like, you need to have, another level of engineering inspections done and some mold testing and stuff like that down. 3 times a week, I give him the same 2 numbers. Shirley, write this number down. Last time I was like, is Shirley sitting at the dining room table? Can I just talk to her maybe? And it's the same conversation. In January, he had a dog die. Sad thing. We've all had it. It sucks. But what do? He goes in the backyard, buries his dog on a nice day when the ground wasn't totally frozen in January, right? A couple weeks later, he calls us. We had just had 9 inches of snow. He's calling everybody again because he has this dead animal smell in his house and it's making him sick and nobody else can smell it. And I've already heard this 3 times from my peers. And so when he finally calls me, and I keep blocking him, he keeps calling from a different phone number. So when he called me about, I got this dead animal smell. I was like, oh, is it because you buried your dog in the back, near back fence and you're smelling it through 8 inches of snow? Nobody can smell that. You can't smell an odor 30 feet from the house under 8 inches of snow and buried however many, a foot deep, whatever. I was like, dude, I don't want to work for you. And we're all talking about you. None of us want to work for you. It's been 3 years, dude. Get a hint. We don't want to work for you.
Has anyone ever done a job for him? And he's like, thank you. You took care of it. We're good. Thank you.
No.
Right.
So one mold guy did go in, and he has so his problem is he's a hoarder and he has a mold problem and his basement floods, leaks every time it rains. And it's probably as simple as cleaning his gutters, but we're so like, I don't even want to touch his property. He's only let one guy in. He said he has a mold problem so bad. So I talked to him one time and I said, I talked to James, his guy's name. I said, he said, you have a really bad mold problem. And there's no polite way to say you're a filthy pig and you're a hoarder. So I'm like, so James tells me that your content level is rather full. And the first thing we're going to have to do is pull all that out just to get to the walls to see what's truly wet. And the guy's like, well, I don't have that kind of money. Well, I don't know what to tell you, dude.
You have to ever show up for cleanup after a crime occurred?
Jeff City, Missouri, we don't have a lot of that kind of violent crime. I mean, I know a competitor of ours, had to clean up after pepper spray stuff. I don't remember what brand it is, but anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they just got this stuff and they pumped this whole house, this whole apartment, 9-plex apartment just filled with this tear gas stuff. So they got to clean that one up. I don't deal with a lot of crime in my area. I've cleaned up after stabbings. I've mostly what I've cleaned up after is just suicides or unattended deaths or natural, not necessarily unattended, but natural causes. No, I've never had to deal with a mass shooting cleanup or anything like that. We just don't have that kind of crime really around here. Probably more than I realize, but we don't see a lot of it.
As we're wrapping up here, Lonnie, is there any advice you want to give to anybody that might find themselves in a situation where they have a family member that passed away unexpectedly in a home or something like that?
The only thing I'd let people know is it's called trauma cleanup or biohazard. Either one, they're kind of synonymous. When you're dealing with that, be prepared to have a major conversation with your insurance carrier because they will screw you every which way they can. And be prepared to come out of pocket more than just your deductible. And back in the day, some of the adjusters would let us kind of wink, kind of fudge some labor hours to cover as much of the personal property stuff as we can. But in this market, in this day and age, no, insurance companies are going to stick by the book, and you will be out of pocket more than you realize. You don't call a guy like us and think, "Oh, we'll just pay our deductible and everything will be taken care of," because that's not how it happens.
That seems like some solid advice. And Lonnie, I just want to thank you. Definitely, this is exactly the type of thing we're looking for on this podcast, is like unusual jobs and that people don't realize. Because I've had remediation services in my home several times. And I have never once, it's kind of shocking my insurance company hasn't dropped me yet, pipes busting and stuff like that. But I have never once thought about what the next job they might have to do is. And now I will think about that. So thank you very much for sharing your stories with us.
It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you, Lonnie.
Restore It Restoration out of Jefferson City, Missouri. If you need remediation services, and get in touch with Lonnie. Ryan, before it goes, is there anything you want to plug?
May 7th and 8th in Fort Collins and Denver. Also in the June, I'm going to be in Vegas. Also Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Albuquerque, and a few others. But also, my next book is now available for pre-order. 12 Guys Walking to a Kitchen. It's my memoir, and you can just get it through the Simon & Schuster site, or you can go to any book retailer online and order it there.
Yeah, I had to Google 12 Guys Walk into a Kitchen and Simon & Schuster because I ended up getting like a UK something or other. So make sure you don't get it shipped from England. It's probably really expensive.
Oh yeah, probably best to not ship it from England. Yeah. But you can get it from Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Target, Amazon, anywhere you want.
Endorsements or forwards, maybe endorsements, Wanda Sykes and Rory Scovel. That's pretty cool.
Rob Dyrdek and Chris Fleming and Jermaine Fowler.
If you want to listen to a slightly funnier podcast, Connor versus Cobb, the most recent episode, what would it be like to have your significant other have hands for feet? If you want to know more about that, check that out.
Lonnie, have you ever come across that at a scene?
No, I was trying to picture that.
Yeah, I won't give away anymore, but it has to do with basketball. Anyway, everybody, thank you, and see you next time.
Music for Baggage provided by Quincy Ledbetter. You can find his stuff at qledbetter.com. Graphics provided by Megan Weaver. You can find her at meganweaverart.com. Special thanks to our premium members for their support. You can become a premium member by clicking subscribe in your Apple Podcast app, or by visiting thebaggagepodcast.com/support to sign up or to gift a membership to someone. A percentage of all proceeds go to charity. If you have any questions, comments, or a good story to share, please email us at thebaggagepodcast@gmail.com.